Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Wednesday. We are gathered here for week 3 of book club, where we will be discussing the third section of Christine's book, which I believe was entitled Wife, which covers chapters 12 through 29. And really, because this isn't a long, I aim to be here for 30 to 45 minutes. I had some feedback like, there's other people doing book clubs that go way more in depth, and there are, and that's great. I think there's a little something for everyone. This is kind of just high level thoughts, and so we can kind of just chit chat about the section. We're not really going to be dissecting like passages or anything like that. I will probably do that in the in videos, and when the season starts, I have to talk about Plathville tomorrow. That's going to be coming. Because that show is just fully off the rails. If you are not into Plathville, I highly recommend getting into Plathville, because they really are like, okay, like it seems like the entire family got a case of the fuckets and just decided to put it all out there. Welcome, everyone. All right. Let's see. Let me start my little intro and we will get chit-chatting. Hold on one second. Where's my... All right, here we go. All right. So the wife chapter or the wife section of this book is basically Christine telling us being married to Kody was straight up not a good time. And it was really interesting to me. And knock on wood, I have a really good marriage. I love my husband. He is phenomenal. But God forbid anything ever happened and we separated. You know, you weigh the pros and cons of like how much to shield from your children and how much to like what's appropriate to involve your kids. I guess one of the things you would have to consider is like age appropriateness and stuff, because while you obviously don't want to trauma dump on your kids about your marriage or like color their view of their other parent through your lens, you don't want to do that, obviously, but completely shielding your child from it and giving them no understanding whatsoever. So Christine's 19, right? When her mom leaves her dad, and she has absolutely no idea like why this is happening. So she says, according to her book. And so her mom leaving is this big betrayal in Christine's mind, and which leads Christine to double down in polygamy and really ice her mother out. Come to find out, and as we are going through the book, she really walks the same path of her mom, right? And so it's really interesting to me. I wonder if Christine would have been served in her own marriage things to spot that really would, I don't know, would she have left sooner? Would she even have married Kody at all? Like, I mean, it's truly a like a what if, and you really shouldn't live in the land of what if. But I every time I am re-listen, because I mostly listen on on Spotify on the audiobook. As I'm listening and re-listening to passages, I keep thinking like, would Christine have been served better as an adult for her mom to have opened up just a little bit that like this wasn't great? Like, I don't know. when your in-laws split, smooth the edges of a situation like that. Yeah, I don't know. And like my grandparents, my mom's parents divorced when she was an adult. They actually got divorced the year I was born. I think when your children are older, you don't obviously clue them into all the ins and outs of your marriage, but like I think you're able to. I don't know. I'm wondering what a therapist would say, because clearly I'm not a therapist, but it just was something that came into my mind. Like, God, I wish Christine knew a little bit about what was going down. Um, Yeah, Beatrice, I totally agree. I agree. Annie shielded her children from her misery, which, I mean, I'm sure Annie did what she thought she should do, right, as a parent, and what was best for her kids. And in a way, I mean, Christine gets to have this really romanticized fairy tale image of her dad. She clearly still has this image of her dad to this day. The other big theme I noticed in Christine's book, just overall, before we jump into this section, is that I really noticed how Christine, I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional, but she's really pointing out, at least in her mind, she has this great relationship with her dad. Her dad was like a really present, loving father. Her dad was always there for all of the things he needed her there for. She loves her dad. He's her hero. He was a great dad. Even after her parents split. And so, really, like, she's not making any excuses for Kody. Like, Kody, it's your job to have a relationship with your kid. It wasn't Annie's job to make sure that Christine's dad was a good dad to the kids. Right? So there's a lot of things I find really interesting. Really, really, really interesting. Let's see. Yeah, you should, as a parent, you always shield your kids from anything awful. I know I did that. But where's the line? Where's the line to when you're obviously shielding them to protect them, or just, to like, they don't need to know all the nitty-gritty, right? And then, cluing them into being like, marriages aren't supposed to look like this. Right. I am sure, because honestly, throughout the series, I've sometimes been critical of Christine, that I feel like things that Isabel has said, things that we know she's talked to Aspen about, I feel like she's been a little too reliant on her children for emotional support. But such is the way in polygamy. Like, she didn't have a husband to lean on, right? So that was her constant support system, was her children were in house. So it like makes sense. But is that the healthiest thing? No. So it's just, where's the line? Where's the line? One of the things I wanted to talk about so there were kind of like 5 major like themes, especially in this section. Christine opens up about addiction and personal struggles. And she talks about her oxycodone addiction following a surgery that she has. And I've seen other people talk about it. I've seen it talked about on Reddit and in other forums. Would you qualify this as like a full-blown addiction? The way she's describing it, it's certainly not like the worst horror story you ever heard, right? But as someone myself who considers myself a recovering alcoholic, I'm not gonna qualify or quantify anyone's addiction. So if Christine feels like she was addicted, I'm gonna go with that. I will say though, I wish, it's like we tiptoed around these topics. She opens up about this, and how Kody was a total loser when it came to having to care for. Literally, when Robin came into the picture, this entire family, Kody's entire previous family, went out the window, is basically what happened. So Kody takes her to get surgery, brings her home. She's curious about her like medication and medication schedule, and Kody like could not be bothered to put Aspen to bed. That's like not Aspen, could not be bothered to put Christine's children to bed, so Aspen had to do it. This time and time again, we are running up against Kody not being able to be bothered. My parents put a lot of effort not talking about each other, which I admire as an adult, but it often left me in a place where I couldn't talk about when they got something wrong. Yeah, and it's so interesting. Like, you know, my husband and I we're doing our best not to fuck our kids up too much. As our kids get older, we're always open for feedback, right? Like, I'm always like, tell me, like, and then I'll tell you if I feel like that's valid or not, right? So it's a fine line. But back to, I noticed there was multiple times in her book. So she talks about the oxy. Obviously, the last chapter is about Garrison, and she talks about alcoholism with in regards to Garrison. But there's also multiple times where she talks about herself maybe drinking too much. And I found that right. Sorry, I am still sick, you guys, though. And the cough is coming on, so I need to wet my whistle frequently. It was the way she talks about her drinking. I'm like, okay, well, you're talking about it in a way that like I would talk about my drinking. But you don't talk about like being sober or being like in recovery or anything like that. I mean, I just found it interesting. I think she does still drink. And I think it would have been interesting. I mean, and this book can't be 1,000 pages long, right? So all these things are, it's like, I wish she talked about this more. I wish she talked about this. These might sound like criticisms, but I'm just like saying like, I wish this was touched upon more. I would be interested to hear, like, as far as like in Mormonism, in the mainstream LDS faith, it seems like these things are so taboo, and then once people do it, it's like balls to the walls. Like, how prevalent is that? I would love to hear, like, is there an addiction specialist that works with primarily the Mormon community? Like, how prevalent is that? How often when you're not raised, when you're raised in a community or in a culture where it's black and white, like never, no, not ever, and you do it, you have no like portion control, no, like, you know. So I'm curious what that, if I would have loved to have heard more of the culture around drinking. How prevalent is it in their religion, especially in the AUB, to have people struggle with substance abuse? But I praise Christine and I applaud her for even opening up about, like, yeah, I felt like I needed to come home and drink a beer just so I could deal with my kids. if you've ever been in a mom Facebook group, I hope that kind of hell never befalls you. It's a special kind of torture that you will do to yourself seeking parenting advice in a Facebook parenting group, because all you will do is get shamed. Because all you will do is something wrong. You feed your kids McDonald's, you are the worst parent. Go straight to hell. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You post a picture of your kid. Oh, guess what? They're not buckled in properly in their car seat. It's a lose-lose situation. So I lost my train of thought. Anyways, moving on. Obviously, she talks about her marriage breaking down with Kody. There was a point where I found really interesting where it's like, this is the perfect example of how polygamy is a lose-lose situation for everyone involved. Christine is talking about, oh, hold on, before I'll table that. I was raised in mainstream Mormon church. Alcohol is a huge no. Mainstream Mormons also have a very skewed perception of alcoholism and addiction in general. They think once you do something, got it. Thank you. Thank you for the insight. You can't ever stop doing that thing. You are automatically addicted. So I've heard some people say maybe Christine is ascribing an addiction to maybe she was just super like maybe it wasn't a full-blown addiction, what she considers an addiction. I'm not a professional, so I'm not here to parse that. But something I found to be like the pinnacle example of this is how, at least polygamy in this iteration, how it's a lose-lose for everybody involved. So Christine's pregnant. Kody's courting another wife. They're going to the hospital because what Christine doesn't talk, and obviously it's her personal business. I think she talks about it very briefly, just in passing. But the reason why she had a hospital birth was she was 38, but also prior to Truly, she had had a miscarriage. And I think Janelle talked about it in Becoming Sister Wives that she like hemorrhaged. And it was like a medical incident with Christine. So I would think that she probably was considered a high risk pregnancy. So she has Truly in the hospital. At the hospital, we meet Dr. Bean, and Kody decides, and Christine writes about this in her book, how while she's in labor, Kody decides to ask the doctor about IVF for Mary. And apparently, Mary, when she saw this, was pissed. And I'm like, and so it's like everyone loses, right? So Christine should be all about her. She's the one in labor. Kody is thinking he's doing a thing and like, oh, look at me, husband of the year. I'm concerned about Mary's fertility. We're already here. Let me like knock this out and I'll just ask about it. Now he thinks he's doing something good when really he's just being an asshole. And then Mary has her like medical condition discussed without her even being present. Lose, lose, lose all the way around. But ultimately, as our moderator so eloquently puts, Tracy, Kody equals dumbass. Yeah. So, it really seems what was also interesting to me, especially in the wife section of the book, is it seems like Janelle and Christine really got close when it was clear that Christine was making a plan to leave. It was really in Flagstaff, especially in COVID, when Kody and Robin isolated themselves away from the whole family. And obviously the kids still wanted to see their siblings. It seemed like at that point, Christine and Janelle really became co-parents together. And it seems like that's where they became like so close. I think it's a relatively recent phenomenon. But I love that for them. It is interesting to me that I don't think that they were always close, and I think that they did have problems before, but they were able to work through it. They were able to patch things up. That is not the case for Mary and Chris, or for Christine and Mary. Christine has said like she doesn't want anything to do with Mary. And then I saw Mary did an interview recently with like TJ and Amy Robach, TJ Holmes and Amy Robach. And she's saying how, yeah, her and Christine are never going to have a relationship. So that is interesting. Let me see. I took notes so many places and they're kind of all over the place. So I apologize for that. Also, my husband, I love sharing is caring, but I don't need anybody's head colds. They are the worst. Christine makes a really good point in because she talks about Kody punishing the wives and the kids with his time and attention if they were to act out of line, especially with the show's filming schedule. The show would film a week on, a week off, and if something was said on the show that Kody didn't like, he wouldn't come around, and that would affect obviously the wives and the kids. And Christine writes in her book, it was never about Kody's behavior. It was about the wife's response to Kody's behavior. So Kody would say, if you want me to love you, be more lovable. But it's like, I'm just supposed to eat shit on a regular basis with a smile on my face and never be upset about it. I think in one of my last videos, I used that clip from Step Brothers where Brendan's like, I got a belly full of dog shit, and now you're laying this on me? So, oh my God, I hate being sick. I love that Christine is calling all of this out. I've heard, did I see her say this herself, that she is writing another book? So I hope this goes further into things the further she gets away from Kody. The other big glaring like excuse me moment I had reading especially this section was like the kids are like not about the show at all. Like the kids seem to really not want anything to do with the show. They would prefer the show it seems to not be on anymore, especially Truly. And Truly's a minor and she doesn't like Christine writes in her book, like she gives Truly a choice, like if she wants to film or not, but it's like, she's a minor and it freaking sucks that like her Truly's entire life was the show and she had no say in the matter. That sucks. I actually had a comment that I wanted in my Facebook group that I wanted to bring in and discuss because I was like, yes, we are going to talk about that. And this is, since we're talking about the kids, this would be a good moment to do that. So where did it go? I don't know how to use StreamYard. Okay. All right. So this is from B. Gavish, and I think she is in the chat. As part of the discussion tonight, could you discuss the sad childhoods of the OG children who grew up in a truly dysfunctional home due to poverty, lack of medical insurance, placing the older siblings in the role of parent, and a cold and distant father who ruled the family by depriving those who he felt were disobedient of his love, as well as family resources. Rewatching episodes with Garrison clearly show that he rarely received any sort of love or attention from a cruel and absent father. Peyton and Gwen seemed especially fragile and have displaced their anger and resentment of their father onto one another. Isabel and Savannah have also been badly treated as well. Their mothers are trying hard to make up for their brute of a father, but when will Kody ever be held accountable? Christine's efforts to be objective and forgiving actually have resulted in overlooking the paternal abandonment of a cruel and egotistical father. Definitely agree with all of that. It really is sad how it seems like once the show started, Kody stopped being a father to the OG3. And I think it's kind of like a mind fuck for the older, for lack of a better word, for the older kids to like what's worse, having had a father and knowing how capable he was of being a good parent, and then witnessing him just say, "I don't want to do that with you anymore." Is that worse, or is just never having a father at all? Is that worse? I don't know. Thankfully, I truly do not know, because my dad is like the best person on the planet. But it sucks. Christine writes in her book about how, I don't know, like they brought up the conversation of, hey, like Savannah and Truly haven't gotten Claudia rings yet. What's up with that? And he was like, it's not on my radar. My mom is so painfully aware of like trying to make things equal. Like my brother and I have to actively stop her and say, like, look, it's okay if like you bought us both sweaters and one cost $5 more than the other. That's okay. My mom will agonize over making all things equal. It was always important to her that we had the same number of packages under the tree every year at Christmas. Literally a couple years ago, I don't know what I came up short at Christmas, like how she calculated what everyone, she gave me $20, just $20. I mean, I took it. I'm not a dummy, but like, ma'am, that is not necessary. That is the environment I grew up in, and I'm so thankful and grateful. But to witness the exact opposite, it's like wild to me that you wouldn't even be concerned that you did for 90% of your kids. You had this tradition, you got this ring. And then for 2 of them, you're like, nah, I'm over it. I don't know. And I feel like I'm somewhere in between, because I mean, apologies to my kids, but if one has 5 presents under the tree and one has 4, I'm gonna call it a day. If one maybe I'll wrap a box of cereal, because my mom also did that way back in the day when when I was like 2. She was like, oh yeah, you guys just liked opening presents, so I would wrap cereal. Like, that's actually low-key brilliant. So yeah, I could definitely, especially now since my son is only 2, I could definitely even out packages by doing something like that. But if my son's toy costs $5 more than my daughter's, or vice versa, I'm not sweating that. That's not going to keep me up at night. But I'm not just gonna say, you know what, I just don't feel like doing Christmas this year or something like that. Also, I did not realize just how hardcore Kody went with all of these Jewish customs. They literally had Shabbat dinner every Friday. Oh my God. If me and my brother were twins, my mom probably would have had to have been institutionalized. I'm not even joking, because I don't think she would have been able to handle that. I'm glad that they kept it pretty even. My brother and I are 15 months apart, and my mom only had 2 kids, 1 boy, 1 girl. So thankfully, like, sometimes she could get away with like, that's a girl thing, that's a boy thing, or whatever. Matt plays like, we never were in the same activities. We both did band, but luckily there were times where it's like, okay, well, that's, Matt's football, or Matt, like, so it wasn't like, oh, why did I get this? Cause my poor mom. And I tell her, because now it's with the grandkids. I'm like, Mom, like, please give yourself a break. Like, because these kids know you love them. Shabbat dinner was one of the first things that Robin found an excuse to cancel. And really, the Shabbat dinner was just family dinners every Friday, right? And then, yeah, it was like, cancel that. Ugh. Let's see. Christine talks about how the show brought public exposure, and that amplified personal pain, and the family fractured. All of these things, it's like, okay, you're writing about this and still doing the show. So I've seen some people speculating, is this book kind of Christine saying like she's done with the show? I don't know. It would make sense to me, honestly, because how do you write things like this about how bad the show was for your kids and then continue to do it for more and more time? It's one thing to like look back on what you already did and say, hey, maybe that wasn't the healthiest, maybe that wasn't the best, but then to still continue to do it, that's going to be interesting, right? I mean, do I want the show to end? Absolutely not. I want the show to go on for as long as possible, especially now. Oh my gosh, I just watched Dancing with the Stars. I haven't watched Dancing with the Stars in so long, but I'm so into it. And like, the production value has like, but from the last time I watched it to now, holy cow, they must have like tripled their budget. Because the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives gals are on it. So I'm watching that. I'm going to be watching The Bachelor. Kody's on special. These are all shows I either didn't watch before or stopped watching a long time ago, and now I'm re-energized. So all these like reality shows crossing over with each other, it's like reinvigorating those shows. Will that reinvigorate their home core shows? Will we have now stuff to talk about now that Kody's off doing other things? It'll be interesting. My manager grew up with Taylor's ex-husband, Tanner, from Mormon Wives, and was telling us stories today. No one should feel guilty about doing what they need to do to support their family. Her kids will be thankful for the show one day. Most likely, the name recognition will give them a boost. Yeah, it's interesting, because what I will say about the Browns, the kids, most of them are not trying to make business ventures parlay business ventures off of their show notoriety. we see, oh God, boy, do we wish they would though, right? Like as soon as someone gets a Patreon or a something, we sign up. I sign up. And the only one that still has one is McKelty. Madison dabbled in the podcast for a little bit and then decided that wasn't the best thing for her. Completely understandable. Gwen did YouTube and Patreon and then decided that wasn't for her. Also completely understandable. But I see all these kids, like the Duggar kids, a lot of them have YouTube channels on Little People Big World. At least one of the kids has a YouTube channel. I think a couple of them do. So they're utilizing being known to kind of keep the social media influencing aspect going. And I don't begrudge them that at all, but I've noticed like the brown kids really don't do that. They're really not doing that. And they seem to have no interest in that. Rachel, you think the show should end? 20 would be a nice round number. But for sure, if they keep renewing it, they're never gonna. I'll say this: Kody is never gonna proactively quit the show. As long as TLC keeps renewing them, he'll still do it. I think probably Mary would too, because why not? I mean, Leon doesn't film and it's just like whatever Mary feels like doing. So why not do it? Janelle probably will still because her kid, I don't know if her kids are as against the show and they're all over the country. So really it's like Janelle and if Madison's willing to film Tay farm stuff, that's a business opportunity. So that would honestly kind of be smart if they kept that going. Really, if Christine wanted to step away and just focus on her Airbnb and those properties, could she do that without the show? I don't know. And yeah, Joanne, I agree. If the ratings stay high like this last season, yeah, they're not going to pull a show that's a good, like easy money, right? It'll be interesting. If you guys haven't listened to the book in audio format, I do recommend it. I think it's worth the I don't know, I think it was like $15 or $20. I bought it in every form I could. I have the Kindle, I have the physical book. I don't know where that is at the moment, and then the audio book. I really enjoy listening to Christine read me her story. I find that is she has a great reading voice. I've seen some people critique the way she talks, and as someone who has the way I talk critiqued often, I don't find anything bizarre about the way she talks at all. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm more compassionate or give more leeway to people's vocal fries. I mean, my husband, neither one of us drinks anymore, but when he would the Boston, when he did drink, oh man, that came out hardcore. But so as someone with a particular regional aspect to my voice, I don't really find her voice particularly odd. I actually find her quite soothing to listen to. I'd love for her to read like children's books. I would download those. All right. Joanne, she does have a great voice, but it was like a friend telling you about their life. Yeah. I will say, I don't know what like Scrabble word of the day she was playing at the moment, but that girl read rubbish and was like, I'm going to weave that in like 10 times. And she did. All right, you guys. Well, that is my thoughts on the wife section. We touch on Christine's her substance use, that whole section, and really the complete breakdown of her marriage, right? And then her kind of paving a way like independently while still being in a plural family. And it's quite interesting. Also, I really love David for her. I think I said this last week. He reminds me a lot of my husband in the sense that like David is the kind of person that appreciates people as they are, or at least that's how he appears. My husband is very much that kind of person. Be authentically you. My husband loves that for you, and he lets me be absurdly, ridiculously me and loves that about me. I can have Diet Coke ornaments year round as decor, right? I can wear Diet Coke merch and make it my whole personality. He loves that for me. And like people should have people should be with people who love that about them. And I found it particularly cutting when Christine talked at the beginning of the book about how her dad used to call her a princess and how much she loved being her dad's princess. And then we watch on the show about how Kody would call her a princess as like a derogatory term. And it's like, that's just so shitty. I hate that. So I love that she's in a fulfilling relationship now. Alrighty, you guys, that is all for this episode of Book Club. I will see you back here next week when we finish the book right in time for the new season. I'm going to have a video on Plathville tomorrow. Veronica is crashing out on Reddit. It's a fucking mess, and we're going to talk about it. I'm going to be up all night trying to figure that out. But yeah, and then Seeking Sister Wives starts next week, and then and Special Forces at some point. I don't even know at the moment, but what I'm exploding. My brain is exploding. All right, you guys, have a good one. Take care. Meet me back here tomorrow. We're going to talk about Plathville. I'll post about that when the video's out. Have a good night, you guys. Bye.